Hello everybody, welcome back once again to another Lutys chainsaw mods. I've got my sthil 034 here. Now people have asked me before about carburettor issues. I thought I'd do another one on carburettors. Now I need to tell you the story about this really. So this 034, this is the one I had given to me by a friend. I've had issues with it. To cut a long story short, I ended up putting a cylinder and piston in it because it was worn out. You know, it already had a piston and retaining the original cylinder. It was worn out. Anyway, I decided the 034, originally this one was a standard 034 AV, which is a 56cc. I decided to buy a super kit for it, which is 61cc, rather than buy the 56. Well, why wouldn't you really, you know, because I've got to buy one. So that's what I did. Now I did find that, you know, the kit wasn't bad actually, to be fair. You know, it's pretty much, I had to tidy up the top fins, etc., because it was a non-genuine kit. So I had to tidy up the fins on the top because I was struggling to get the top on. It was a few millimeters too high, sort of thing. So, you know, I basically just trimmed it all up, the casting, got it on, and I've also ported this. Now I ported it once and I had it running, you know, I did a bit of wood with it and I put it away, didn't use it and what have you for a while. Then I got it out the other day. I've got a load of wood here and I was gonna use it, and I warmed it up and I'm revving it and it spat back at me and cut out, wouldn't restart. So I thought, oh, something's gone wrong with this badly. Normally it's a piston ring or something that scored the bore and what have you. Anyway, so I took the cylinder back off and inspected everything. Couldn't find a problem with it, with the cylinder. So I thought, well, while I've got it off, I'll do a better porting job of it. So I did. I managed, because I've got some smaller tungsten tip bits. I thought I'd get them in and get them up the transfers and what have you, and I really managed to do a good job of this. I'm really quite happy with the porting on this. So I did that, put it all back together, and it stopped on me. Stopped on me a couple of times, you know. When it was idling, it would like peter down and then cut out. So I'm retuning the carb and messing about and what have you. Then I got it in here and I checked, because I thought, well, maybe it's the coil failing when it's hot, because that's when they normally go. Like, anyway, I mean, I don't know if you can see the colour of that plug there, like, but it's pretty rich. It looks pretty rich. Now, when I got the plug out, it was a bit wet, so I dried it off, put it in the saw, and just made sure it was sparking. Well, it wasn't. It stopped sparking. So I thought, well, I'm not going to mess about with this plug. You know, it's only a flipping spark plug. So I put another one in, and I got it going. I got it sparking, and then I got it running, you see. So I've got it outside and I'm tuning it up again on the ground, and then I revved, and when I was setting the hijack, I thought I'll set it on revs and see what it sounds like. I found that I was having to screw the hijack right in before it sort of hit peak and really picked up the RPMs. So I thought it's running rich, this thing is. So I brought it in, and I mean, obviously it was something to do with this carb, you know, probably the fuel regulator. Now, I've been pondering about this, and realistically, the thing with these fuel regulators, I'll just put my glasses on so I can see properly actually what you can see. The thing with the fuel regulators, so when I talk about a fuel regulator, so if you take the top off with a diaphragm, right, and inside, okay, inside you've got this little needle valve here, right? Okay, so the diaphragm, as the engine pushes, as the piston goes up, it draws on the pulse line, sucks on the pulse line, and basically it draws down the diaphragm. The diaphragm hits the little needle and it pushes it down, which then opens up the fuel gallery, if you like, from the tank, and fuel comes in as the diaphragm goes up. So the piston's going down now, so as the diaphragm goes up, it then pulls the diaphragm up, which pulls a vacuum inside this chamber, which also helps to draw the fuel up as it's going up. Okay, and it's continuously going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, which is continuously hitting on this needle valve here, right? So the reason it is a fuel regulator, not just a shut-off valve, needle valve or whatever, it regulates the fuel flow inside this chamber. Okay, now obviously these brass holes, they're your jets, you know, they're your high and low jets and what have you. You've got holes here as well, which go off your adjusters for your high and low. So the more fuel you have coming into here, the more flow you're going to have through the carburettor of fuel. Okay, or the more it will increase the pressure as well. The fuel pressure will increase, because if you've got a piddly little amount, you're not going to have a lot of pressure in there. But if you've got this full, then it's going to increase the fuel pressure. So like I say, you know, your diaphragm's going up and down according to the pulse of the engine as the piston's going up and down, and it's hitting on this needle valve, and each time it hits down on it, it releases a bit of fuel in. Each time it goes up, it pulls a vacuum inside, and it's doing this all the time. Okay, now also, not only is it, as it comes down, pushing on that needle valve, it's also putting pressure through all your jets, because all your jets are inside here. So as the diaphragm goes down, it's going to increase the pressure through your jets, so it'll sort of squirt through your jets, if you like. Okay, so if you need to think of it as you're adjusting, the way I do it anyway, you're adjusting the fuel pressure through your carburettor. Okay. Now the other thing to think about, see, I had this running, I was able to set everything when it had the 56cc cylinder and piston, the old cylinder and piston on it, which was worn out, right? Now I had it running, I was able to tune it and run it for a while, but after a long while of running, when it got really hot, it would just cut out, because it would be losing compression. You'd struggle to get it going again. Like I said, it had already had a piston and rings in it before, a while back. It was the original cylinder, as far as I know, so I knew it was worn out. Now with me putting the new cylinder and piston in it. Although this carburettor was running the way I'd set this fuel regulator before, what you've got to realise is that you've got a new cylinder and piston in there, and not only that, it's now uprated by an extra 5 cc's. It's a bigger cylinder and piston, plus it's got a better seal in the cylinder, so therefore you are going to increase your pulse pressure and vacuum from the pulse line, because it's capable of pushing and pulling more pressure up your pulse line. Now if it does that, what it's then going to do is pull that diaphragm down even harder and pull it up even further. Okay, so I've changed the way that it runs because I've put a new cylinder and piston in it. And this is what you've got to think about. If you do something to a saw that gives you more compression or whatever, like, you are also going to alter the carburettor, the fuel regulator, because it gains more pulse. And I mean, things like this, I just think about things like this and I think, well, okay, so why has it done it, you know? And I sort of ponder on it. And that's why it had altered all the adjustments. Okay. Now, what I do with mine, depending on what carburettor you've got, okay, so I'm just going to put this lid back on and I will just talk you through what I do and why I do it. Because I checked this before, and I will talk to you about it. And the problem was I'd overcompensated on the fuel regulator adjustment because the engine was weak to get it running. Okay. Put the cylinder on and obviously it's sucking more, blowing more up the pulse line. So like I said, it does affect the fuel regulator. So, okay, so there's different ways of checking these. So if you've got, depending on what you've got, I've got different pipes for different things on these. So some carburettors, if you've only got one pipe like that, that's your fuel line, that's it. Like, some carburettors have got, they have a port on the top with a hole in it. If you've got that type, you need to make yourself an adapter like this to plug the hole. Okay, I'll explain the reason why in a minute. So you're going to need that, and if you had that type with the port on the top, you would then put a syringe on it, because the way I do them is you need a pipe on your fuel line. Okay, now when you've got no pulse pressure, because as soon as I put pressure in, it's going to pull down on this diaphragm, you see. So you should have nothing going through this. Now on this type, these are easier to set. So if you've got this type where you've got a little hole in the top of the diaphragm cover, all you have to do is blow some pressure in like that, and then you'll touch the diaphragm with a tool of some description, and you can tell how sensitive it's set. Now there is no real way, as you know, people say, oh yeah, it's so many mil above, so many mil up, past the level of the case, that set the rocker on just 1mm above the level of the case. Okay, well, some saws it might work, but there's no real measurement setting. So what you got to do is blow down, and then put your tool inside the hole if you've got this type. Can you hear it? Okay. Now I tried this before and I literally only just had to touch. I only had to just touch that diaphragm and it started to release pressure into the carburettor. But also, I did find when I first blew down the pipe before even touching that, I was able to push some pressure through, and then it eventually seal, like as if it was set as a hair trigger, if you like. So I knew, you know, it was set way too high, this one was. So what I've done, I've set it now so that I'm only pushing it down probably, I don't know, probably about 1mm, maybe 1.5 mm, and it's opening. But more to the point, it's now sealing itself off and shutting properly. Okay, so if you've got this type, like I said, this is the easiest type to set because you've got that hole in the top where you can just push down on that diaphragm and feel how it's set. Okay, and like I said, there is no proper way of doing it by measuring. You need to feel it yourself by blowing down the pipe and set it so that you're able to, you know, I mean, all right, if you're pushing it down by probably 3mm or 2 or 3mm, you know, it might be too much. You know, you have to use your opinion on the fault that you've got on your saw and whether you think it could be overfueling or not. It's more about experience, really. But generally, overall, you know, if you can blow down this and get nothing, like this one, and then push this down by about 1.5 mm, is probably about right. But, you know, now, so the other types of carburettor, because at the end of the day, this applies to all chainsaw carburettors or all power tool carburettors. Okay, so if you've got one with like a high port here and it's got a hole that attaches onto, say, your airbox or whatever, so you've got to know which bit is your diaphragm. Basically on this it's this end. Okay, on this you've got your flap valves inside here which just move like this. They're check valves basically to keep the flow going the right way. So you need to find out which end is your actual diaphragm, and usually they'll have a lot of them have this type, which is a piece of cake. But if they don't, some of them have got like a port on the top or something. So I've got a tool here which fits my MS362. That's what I made this for. It's just a little plastic plug with your pipe going through it, and then you plug that into your carburettor. So like I said, this does fit the 362 and I've done it with this one. Okay, so you plug it into your carburettor into the pulse area. Somehow you've got to tap into the pulse area. Okay, now you could do it on this one. It has got a little hole here. Now you could just hold the pipe over it and do it that way, but it's awkward on your own because you've got no real way of fixing it onto it. And that's why I set these, if they've got this hole in the top, just set them with that is the best way. But otherwise, like I said, if it's got the big port in the top, you stick that in your port in the top, blow pressure down, And then what you would be doing is you'd be pushing pressure in with your syringe and feeling fuel going in or air going in, whichever way, pressure going in as it pushes down on the diaphragm, and then saying when it pulls up on the diaphragm it should stop. Okay. But it does depend, whatever shape you've got, they all work the same way, but it depends what shape you've got, what you have to do to actually achieve the function of the diaphragm going up and down. And that, it's as simple as that. It really is. And that's on pretty much everything, really, that everything that I know of they have diaphragms in and they all work exactly the same way. So I know this one was set like a hair trigger. It pretty much was barely shutting off, and sometimes it wasn't shutting off. So the extra pressure from a good engine that's been uprated to a bigger engine, you know, you can imagine the amount of fuel it was allowing to go through this carburettor was increased dramatically, you know, because it's pushing that needle down a lot further, it's pulling the diaphragm up a lot further. It's much stronger pulse. So when people say, oh, this carburettor is no good, it's overfueling, or it's this, or it's that, or it's the other, I guarantee it'll be this. It'll be the diaphragm setting, the fuel regulator setting. You know, yeah, okay. I mean, I've got one here that I damaged. But basically, what I do, which I haven't done this one, but I'll probably do this one today. I thin all the spindles down, and the screw thread and the head of the screw, I thin them all down to get better flow through them, both ends, so that end and that end. Okay, and what I did on one of my 372 carbs, so inside the bottom, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but inside the bottom there's the main jet, which is a brass piece sticking up, and I was going inside with a small die grinder, and I touched the end of the flipping main jet. It broke a piece off the main jet, and I did all the work on it, put it on, and then it was flooding like hell. It was on that sort, actually. It was on that one there, that Fast Chinese that I got, and it was running terrible, you know. Anyway, I tried resetting the regulator and different things in case it was that, because I didn't know I'd chipped the actual main jet till afterwards. In the end, I had to change the carburetor because they're pressed in, really, these jets, and I didn't even know if you can buy a main jet, to be quite honest with you, so I just ordered another one. I only put cheap carbs on them anyway. I buy Husqvarna 372 carbs for anything that's I can make go faster, because they're nice big carburetors, and make my own intake manifolds, which I should just show you one. I'll show you one of them. I've got fucking... So I make my own intake manifolds, big intake manifolds, to mount the Husqvarna 372 carburetors on them. They're made of steel and they've got ramping inside, and they're massive compared to the standard ones. These flipping really open the power up. They really open the power up, and I'm running two of these on two of my Chinese. I've got a couple here. I did think about selling them at one point, selling a couple, but there's a lot of work in these, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, realistically, even to break even at £10 an hour, the work in them is, you know, for me, I mean, they take near enough 4 hours to make one of these. you have to cut the components out. It's all thin material. The tubing and everything is very thin because you don't want to be adding weight onto something that could be vibrating inside, otherwise it's going to break. I put rubbers underneath when I fit these with the big Husky carb. I always put a rubber pad underneath the carb, just jammed under, just to give it a little bit of support. I've never had one break, but ultimately, you know, they could do. Especially, I mean, that one there revs to 18,500 RPM. You know, you imagine the vibration coming off it. But these are awesome. These really are. I mean, you can make them yourself if you want to. Like I said, you know, realistically, for me to sell one of these, I'd be wanting probably 40 quid for one of these. And there's only 3 left now. Now, I do want to use one of them on my Parker chainsaw. I've got a Parker Chinese 58cc, and I want to use one on one of them. You know, I don't want to have to start making more of them. They're, like I said, they're 4 hours to flipping make one of them. I just don't want to do it. So I decided against selling them because, like I say, 40 quid, it's a lot of money anyway for somebody to buy one. So I wasn't going to do it. And then, like I said, I'll just keep them anyway, because you never know. I might get somebody that, one of my mates or whatever, perhaps wants a build like that one. And I've got the manifold here. So I can't remember what I was talking about now. Yeah, so, you know, these carbs, fuel regulator adjustment is usually the key to these. I've only had a problem with that one carb that I broke the main jet on. That was my own fault, and it was I think it was £12.99 carburettor. I only buy cheap carburettors. Yes, you've got to set the fuel regulator, but like I said, you're probably better off setting it anyway. Set it to your saw the way you want. So put it on, try and set it and get it set up. If it's not setting up properly, work out whether it's underfueling or overfueling, and then do the appropriate adjustment on your fuel regulator. You've only got to bend that little rocker down, just bend, so hold the screwdriver against the one end and then push down on the other end to make it fuel less. And obviously if you want to make it fuel more, you just lever up on the one end like that and it'll fuel more. But always build it up, and then just, if you've got this type, like I say, test it with something down the end, pressure down your pipe, make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do, opening and closing properly. Okay, and that's my tip really, you know. And you will be able to use cheap carburetors all the time if that's what you want to do, and I do. You know, my MS360's got a cheap carb on it, that racing saw's got a cheap carb on it, my other racing saw's got a cheap carburetor on it, this one's got a cheap carburetor on it because this was replaced. And like I said, I did have it running until I changed the cylinder and piston. Had further issues, because once you understand that that's how they work, you know, a stronger piston and ring seal or a bigger piston will alter your fuel regulator. It really will. So you just need to get it off, and on these it's simple to get on and off on these 034s. Just give it an adjustment, and there you go. I did do another video like this previously, and it was on the Chinese ones, but it was just basically the same video really. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching my video. And I'm going to get on that. I might grind this up. I might thin the spindles down on it, you know, make it a bit better. I did a video on that too, increasing flow through your carburettor. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching, and thanks for your support for my channel. I've got well, what I deem as quite a few followers now, and I think there's 42 or 43 of my videos, Lutys Chainsaw Mods, now on this site. This is my hobby, you know. I'm a mechanic engineer, and this is just my hobby. I like fault finding and repairing saws. To me, it's like a Sudoku. So I like fault finding. I can just sit in here. I've got my fire going at the back here nicely, and I just think I've got my fire going down here, and I just enjoy doing it, you know. Just sit down here and messing about with them, with these saws, making different bits, you know, like those manifolds, etc. Grind cylinder bases down with the tool I made so that I can increase the compression, because I obviously like to make saws go faster like that one. I like to do that, and I like to fault find issues as well. I do. I mean, I've had a few saws down here which I normally do a video for them. I don't do them on all of them, but normally I do, because I like just to show what I've found and what have you. And if anybody else has an issue like it, it always helps. I always look myself on YouTube for problems, try and pick up a few tips on something. If somebody's done something, then they're experienced in whatever it is, and they've usually got an idea of what the problem can be. So I'm always, you know, I'm always open to listening for ideas, etc. I mean, I've been working like for 42 years now, doing this kind of thing, you know, and on all kinds of engines, which I like. I specialise in sort of in tuning anything really, petrol, diesel, anything, don't matter. Like I just like doing it, and I've been doing it now for 42 years, and I'm still doing it, and I probably always will. Yeah, you know, nobody knows everything. Some people think they do, but trust me, they don't. I don't know everything, and like I say, I've been doing stuff for 42 years, and it surprises me sometimes how, you know, you can sort of learn something. I mean, I never, the first time I did one of these chainsaw carburettors, probably, I don't know, 22 years ago or whatever, I couldn't work it out how it worked, blah 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 blah. You know, I really couldn't. I didn't realise that they had a pulse to sort of, you know, to work a diaphragm, etc. I didn't know what I was looking at, you know. But over the years, you know, you do stuff, you learn more and more, and you start to get good at it. So it's always worth listening to somebody that's done it. Like I say, I enjoy it. I love it when other people put stuff out that I've not seen before or done before, and I think, you know, it's interesting, very interesting. Yeah, and chainsaws always keep you on your toes as well, because, you know, you can have some weird issues with them sometimes. But yeah, I enjoy it. Like, it's a big puzzle sometimes, you know. You think, just trying to perhaps get more power out of something like that, or cure a fault, a long-standing fault or whatever. I love it. So anyway, I'll let you go now, and you can get on and watch another video, hopefully one of mine. But, you know, just enjoy yourselves, you know, do a little bit and enjoy yourselves like I do. So thank you very much for watching Lutys Chainsaw Mods once again, and bye for now.